Welcome to Money Tales, where money gets personal. I'm Cammie Doder.
And I'm Sandi Bragar.
Today's Money Tales deep dive, where we're going to unpack a topic listeners care about. We're going to talk about how to talk about money while dating.
Woo!
And Sandi, my brain goes to when I was younger, but then I realized I was just with some friends who are dating in our stage of life. And this topic definitely goes, it's not just a young person's game.
I'm so glad to hear that because my son, who's in college, is convinced that people just aren't dating anymore.
Oh, gosh.
It's just
It's so
hookup
sad.
culture, Mom.
Oh, no.
So
Man.
I'm glad that there's still people dating in the world, and hopefully he's wrong.
I hope so, too.
Because dating's so important. And
I
it does
agree.
create opportunities to talk about money and other good stuff.
So, Sandi, for the first question, why is money one of the hardest things or can be a hard thing to talk about when people are dating?
We all come to money from our own personal experiences, our own learning, and our own views about money. And when we're in a relationship with somebody else, especially when it's new, we might be uncomfortable about our views. We might be overly confident about our views. We might be still wondering, gosh, is this person I'm dating, do they have the same values as I do? Do they see money the same way? There's just all this stuff that we bring into our relationships from our past. And so that can get in the way of some people having money conversations. I like to encourage people to have the money conversations regardless. If you're having a conversation and it's creating some sort of butterflies in your belly or discomfort, that's probably a good sign that there's something to talk about.
Oh, very good.
I think back to my friend Renee, who when she went on a first date with her now wife, her date at the time asked Renee, well, what's your credit score? That was the very first question.
Credit score. Wow.
Which I thought, wow,
way.
that's interesting. And so I guess Renee's credit score was high enough and they continued the date. But I've never asked her wife what would have happened if the credit score was too low. So that's an interesting question.
It's a funny question because here's where my brain was going. When I was dating, I wouldn't have felt comfortable bringing up money early. My lens on it was that I didn't want to be judged for, am I just looking for someone who's really rich? I didn't want judgment.
Right.
But that question is a funny way of talking about money where I'm not asking you how much is in the bank account. That can be a conversation, but I love the credit score because I don't want to be burdened by someone with a bunch of debt.
Yes. And if someone has a bunch of debt or a low credit score, there could be a really good reason.
Okay, so you talk about it. There we go, Sandi.
yes.
Look at me. You're always more curious, which is such an inspiration, Sandi. It really is. I mean that in the best compliment.
Thank you. That is the key to all these money conversations is curiosity. So I think there are different ways, and you're highlighting some of the awkwardness, right? I talked about our own experiences, but there's also societal expectations. And I remember when Jeremy Savlov was on, he was talking about dating and
That was great.
how in the current era, it's still uncomfortable to figure out who is going to pay for the date
Right.
and having to figure that out. So I think it's great to have money conversations early on. Some people might have a hard time thinking about how to ease into those conversations. So I love falling on some of our Money Tales conversation starters, which is, tell me about what it was like growing up in your family. How did you guys talk about money? Did you talk about money? What was money like, right? That just opens so much without putting anybody on the spot, without judgment. So I think that's a really nice way to ease into it. Or, geez, I was just reading about this money topic and I realized that I have strong views about it. Like, how do you think about this? There's like a lot of different ways to ease into the conversations. I think it's really helpful to have the money conversations for many reasons. First, you learn about yourself and you learn about the other person. So that's always helpful. It helps build transparency and trust, which I think are really important in relationships, especially if it's a relationship that's important to you that you're trying to build. It allows you to be curious about the other person, learn things that you might not have learned. And I have coming to mind the expression that one of our past guests used, which is about getting financially naked.
Oh, it's so good.
Right? And so at some point when the relationship gets really, I think, serious, having that naked money conversation is helpful. And simply that means just being even more transparent, not about necessarily what you have and don't have in terms of financial resources, but really about your feelings. How does money make you feel? If and how does money motivate you? All those sorts of questions. What are you trying to achieve financially? How do you see your life looking in the future? What are things that are important to you? That can be really helpful, because if you don't have these conversations early in your relationship, as the relationship gets more and more serious, it can be harder and harder to have the conversations.
Isn't that ironic? You think, well, I'll wait till it's more solidified. But it is harder sometimes.
It does. It gets harder. And I think it takes even more vulnerability.
Yeah.
Later on, because then you really care for this person. Maybe you love them. You want to spend the rest of your life with them. But now you're like, gosh, well, how's my financial situation going to land on them? Is it going to be a positive? Is it going to be a negative?
Yeah.
How do I feel about their financial situation? It seems like they have way more resources than I do, because they're always buying me things. Does that have an implication on how I'm feeling about this person? And what if they can't afford those things? What if they're just utilizing credit cards?
That's right.
There's room to surprise each other. And so I really like having these conversations along the way. I don't think you have to have the hot and heavy money conversations up front in a relationship. I think you can build toward those.
I like that. Sandi, I'm thinking about as these relationships grow and get closer to marriage. So when people get engaged and they want to get married, I'm thinking back to our conversation with Sarah Van Voorhis,
family law attorney
who's in conversations with couples who are divorcing. That's what she was talking about. And what struck me as her reminder to all of us in common law states like California that marriage is a contract.
Yeah, in all states, yeah.
In all states. Okay.
Yeah, marriage is a contract, right? So without a premarital agreement, you're opting into whatever the laws are in the state that you're getting married in.
There we go.
And if you move, it gets a little more complicated, but the state where you live in.
Okay. And it's a great reminder, you think, this is just an emotional thing and we're in love and we're getting married. And like any contract, you normally would have serious conversations. And I think that is a great reminder and maybe a little bit of an encouragement to have the conversations that feel uncomfortable because they're important. You are getting into a contract.
That is right. If you're getting married, premarital agreements or prenups, as they're also called, can be very valuable because they allow you to have big money conversations before you get married and make decisions about how you'll utilize money during your marriage. And what sort of precedes this is usually a conversation among the couple about their financial resources and whether they should keep them separate or combine them. So I've seen all different sorts of ways that couples do it. There might be mine and yours. There might be ours. So we just put all of our money together. Some couples decide to have mine, yours, and ours. So there's sort of different ways to put this together. Importantly, when it comes to money and relationships, there is no one right way to handle financial resources for every couple out there. There just isn't. So money conversations are really important when you're dating and as you move into a more serious relationship, because you really need to figure out with each other how you want to handle financial resources, what works best for the two of you. And I think it's really important as a couple is navigating that question to make sure that they're putting guardrails in place so that they're creating ways to be transparent with each other about their financial resources, and especially as they're moving toward marriage or in a marriage, because you want to have transparency. You want to make sure your partner has access to joint resources. You want to make sure that there's a plan in place, a contingency, some health event, an accident, even a death. You want to make sure that you know how you're going to help each other out in those situations or not.
Right.
You want to have the plan in place. Certainly, you want to think about when you're in that conversation, what's worked well for us in the past? So in our relationship so far, are we happy with the way we've been handling money? What's worked? What hasn't worked? What might we want to change? And how are we going to make financial decisions together? So again, the prenup, if a couple's getting married and wants to put a premarital agreement in place, that process of putting one together helps then think through this question: how are we going to make financial decisions together? The answer usually is contingent on having had some conversation about what is our financial vision for the future. What are we trying to build toward together? How can we build upon this partnership that we have in a financial way?
So important. I hear couples talk about when we were so young, we had no money. There was no need for a prenup. And what I'm hearing from you, we should all leverage the questions that are embedded in a prenup. You don't have to even go through the process, but these are such good questions to explore, and they'll evolve as you grow up. But they're really important questions, and I even want to bring them into our relationship. I've been married now, gosh, how many years? 13 years, I think. And these are great questions. They're dialogues to be having.
And things change.
That's right.
At the beginning of a relationship, we might have certain values, and because of life experiences we have along the way, our values might shift. And so I think it's important to continue to have these conversations, Cammie, because sometimes couples' values shift in different directions.
Yeah.
And if they're not understanding that of each other, it can cause tension later on, especially around money. We see this sometimes when there's a large liquidity event well into the marriage and the couples are no longer aligned around their values. One wants to maybe spend a lot more money as a result. The other wants to give more money away. So there's some more level setting that needs to be done to get everyone back onto the same page. And sometimes that doesn't happen. It is important to be very clear about values, to make sure that as a couple, that there is alignment of values. And that's not to say that you both have to have the same exact values.
I think that's really important.
But you want there to be some overlap or some respect, and you want to be able to make money decisions together that are in alignment with your values.
That's a beautiful.
Sounds so easy, doesn't it?
It does sound so easy, which reminds us that it's not easy, but it becomes easier the more we're in practice and having the conversations, being curious, being open. I love your recommendation, being a great listener, right? It's so important.
Yeah. And, we could talk all day long on this topic. My best advice for folks is to have more money conversations with the person you're dating, with your significant other, with your spouse, and really, again, get curious. Even if you've been married for decades, there's still more to know. And sometimes we just forget to have these conversations.
So true, Sandi.
And they're fun.
They are fun. They are really fun. Well, Sandi, thank you for this wonderful conversation. And
thank you, Cammie.
For our listeners, we hope you are having more money conversations, inspired to have, and having fun with them. And if you would, share this episode with a friend who might need a little bit more inspiration to have conversations, especially if they're dating someone right now.
Yes. And if you have money conversation topics on your mind that you'd like us to talk about on Money Tales, please reach out to us through LinkedIn. We'd love your ideas.
Thanks for joining us on Money Tales. Money and dating isn't just about dollars and cents. It's about values, expectations, and the stories we carry into relationships. And the money conversation you're avoiding is probably one of the ones that matters most. As we just talked about, start small, stay curious, and remember, you're not trying to get it perfect, you're trying to get it real. So many of our Money Tales guests have shared impactful stories about money in relationships. We've gathered those episodes for you, as well as some links to our blog. Just head over to the show notes. And if there's a conversation you're navigating and want help with, let us know. We're here for you at podcasts@aspiriant.com. That's podcast plural at aspiriant.com. Or you can contact Sandi Bragar or me, Cammie Doder, on LinkedIn. Thanks for listening to the Money Tales podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, share it with someone you think would benefit from listening. And please leave us a review on your favorite podcasting platform. See you next time.